Hello and welcome to Note to File, a clinical research podcast.
A collection of interviews, candid commentary, and general nonsense for the clinical research community.
Check us out at notetofilepodcast.com.
And now, without further ado, on to the show.
All right. Hey, dudes and not dudes. Welcome to another Note to File Live. Today is, September 16th. How's it going, Denali?
I'm all right. I've had a fascinating morning, but I'm here and I'm good. How are you?
It's good. It's good. I'm hanging in there myself. Feels like it's been a long week already. And today is, what is today? Today's National Mexican Independence Day. I will say that YouTube tells us that we have a inordinate amount of audience in Mexico for some reason that I don't fully understand.
So, this is fascinating to me. Like, you can see, I don't know, folks who don't have YouTube, like, you can get analytics on who's watching your content, right? And so, like, but when we dig into it, there is a huge proportion of our audience that is in Mexico. Like, you can see by country and age group and gender and all those things. And like, it's pretty wild. And I'm actually very curious. Like, I've also went like down a rabbit hole on this one as far as like, I know clinical research has been seeing like upticks in Mexico and more investments, but like, why? I'm fascinated. I would love to know why that's the case.
The world may never know, but happy Independence Day to our Mexican listeners. We appreciate you guys. And also today is, I found, a little funny, is it National Collect Rocks Day, which my 5-year-old somehow manages to end up with a pockets full of rocks on a weekly basis. So nothing better than, starting the laundry and just hearing clunk, clunk, clunk. And like, shit, he's got rocks in his pockets.
So, I would say like that's preferable than like paper or like chapstick or something that's gonna like destroy other things.
Create a mess.
So this is a very timely day because this weekend I went on a hike and my 4-year-old, like, we went on like a hike that got to a stopping point and then you have to like go off trail to like see a waterfall. So there's like a lot of like climbing of rocks. On the way back, my 4-year-old gets like a rock that's like this big and was like, I'm gonna take this back. It's Rocky. And, like, named it. It was like pet rock scenario. She was like, I was like, well, I'm not carrying it. Like, I had to like pick her up and like carry her and stuff. Well, she needs hands, and she refused. She carried it the whole way back, like holding this like for her. It was like massive. This named it Rocky. And then this morning, my 2 kids got in a fight because she was giving Rocky superpowers and said he was invincible, and they wouldn't fight. So Rocky has superpowers and is invincible. So these things can escalate quickly, is all I'm saying.
Don't mess with Rocky. So, enjoy your rock collections out there today, guys. Today is we're lazy. So,
no, we're busy. Let's go with busy.
Okay, we'll say that. But instead of actually coming up with, interesting content, we're going to have a little round robin episode. If you're listening and you want to come on stage, hit one of us up on LinkedIn, send a message. We'll send you a StreamYard link. We do this every so often. I feel like it's kind of fun. And, we get varying levels of interest, but we got a couple people this week. So we have Dan and Katie. I'm going to actually start with Dan, if that's okay. So Katie, sit tight for a minute. Chip, what's up, man?
Hi, guys. How are you?
Yeah, good to see you.
I'm here at the National Mexican Independence Day Conference, and I'm here to report all the details. Yeah.
Sweet. Is that the official rebranding of DPharm then?
That's right.
Yeah, so you're at DPharm. I'm interested. Is today the technical first day? Was yesterday their partnerships with sites?
Yeah. So today's the first day of DPharm, 2 days. I'm in Philadelphia. Yesterday, there were 2 conferences. Craco, which you don't say Krakow, I was told.
Okay.
Totally different conference, evidently. So that's clinical research as a care option, and then partnerships with sites. They were at the same time, just on different floors. So kind of odd. So I split my day between those 2, and then those closed yesterday, and then DPharm takes over today, which is much bigger. Each one of those ones yesterday had about 100 people at each one. Today, there are a little bit about over 1,000.
So are those all the same, like organizing, like same organization that put them all, all on, right?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, it's called the Conference Forum, and they do a bunch of different shows, but yeah, they're in charge of all 3 of those. I did hear a rumor from one person that they may make Craco and partnerships individual days next year, so that you don't have to decide like I did. But that was a rumor, so I'm not saying
that would make sense. I think I didn't know about either of them. I think somebody hit me up and be like, "Are you going to partnerships and sites?" I'm like, "What is that?" So it's good. I mean, it's good that we're getting more conversation and focus around sites. Obviously, I can attest to that. Did you find? I mean, first of all, let me ask you this: is clinical research a care option? Dan
How long
Schell?
do you have, Brad?
It is for sure. And I expected a heck of a lot more PIs that were going to get up on stage and talk about that. Like I interviewed a guy from Erie, where I'm from, that does that. But that show had a lot of that as an undertone, and there are plenty of sites that do that. And I met some of those folks, in the audience. But I do have a few quick quotes that I heard at each one of those, if you want me to blow through some of those.
Yeah.
All right. So here's my summation. A lot of the topics aren't anything new that we have, not heard before. So you're going to hear a lot of the same things, like EHR to EDC interoperability. Everybody loves that. Everybody wants that. The one person said there are small conversations around that. So yeah,
except Brad. Brad does not want that.
Brad
wants. I mean, and again, if I did, we talked about this before. I did a little webinar with Korea on the life science leader. Am I saying it right?
No, say clinical leader, just for me.
Clinical leader, okay. Clinical leader. Very good.
But it is actually a company, yeah.
Anyways, a talk about EHR to EDC. I don't care about that because, work with a bunch of EHR vendors through the different sites we work with. I don't find that to be, I can't have coordinators trained on 6 different EHRs and how to make source go in. I mean, if it's available, go watch that webinar. Honestly, I thought it was a compelling reason to be like, I don't think that's the way to accomplish what we want to over the long term. Now, does it have some use cases that make sense more than others? Yeah, absolutely. But anyways, sorry, I won't go down a rabbit hole on that. But
well, if you feel that way, you'll love my next quote. Totally different session. Within 5 years' time, there will be no more manual data entry. Let that sit in.
Yeah. No, because you got to put data somewhere, right? It has to happen.
Streaming into everything automated. Trust me, everything's going to work out fine. That's what he said. You'll also love this one. We are still wasting people's time with manual re-entry of data, semicolon, it's stupid. I love the fact you said stupid 12 times.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty stupid. I would think if anything, maybe EDCs as we know them could go away. I don't think it'll be 5 years, and it'll take longer than that because especially if we get to a place where central source or something more site facing where sites, look, I don't care about an EDC. That's for data managers, right? They pulled the stuff out of there. I want to record my data. You do whatever you want with it. I don't want to have to put it into an EDC. But you still have to manually put it somewhere.
I would argue no one cares about EDC. If you have a robust data platform, that's what the sponsors and data managers care about. They don't care about the actual capturing of the data per se. They just want the data. And you want your source data. So that's just a tool. If we have good source and we have good data offerings that connect, that's all you would need. You wouldn't need EDC.
Yeah.
That's good. People are talking about it either way. Whether it's right, wrong, or indifferent.
Yeah. Integration, interoperability, big themes. I like this one. Sending a patient to clinicaltrials.gov so they can find out more about trials is a nightmare. That was from a patient advocate. We also had another patient advocate say AI cannot replace the human connection, which I thought was really, thoughtful. Interestingly enough, we always talk about hey, how many sponsors are in the room? How many CROs? How many sites? Overwhelmingly, the people were sites. The CEO of Parexel was there yesterday and today. She spoke today, and yesterday she was there, Peyton Howell. There were IQVIA folks on some of the panels, and I give them kudos for getting up there and, taking some of those hits. But really well done. Let's see, there's a lot of talk about empowering sites to be able to contact sponsors directly, going around, over, whatever you want to call it, the CRO, finding out.
What was the CRO response to that? Or was there not one?
That one, no, there wasn't a CRO on that panel. Yeah. In fact, Samir Shah, who is a consultant who used to work for ICON, and he did a presentation with a big panel of different folks that I knew that had put together a new taxonomy on what's site terms and everything. And they published it in Applied Clinical Trials about a year ago. Great article. I'm plugging my competitors. But in one of his slides, he had this image of site network stepping over a CRO, because there was a lot of discussion around how site networks are evolving and becoming, the same thing. Single sign-on, everybody would love that. That kind of, got a little bit of attention. DCTs barely got any attention. They basically, someone said, I look at DCTs just as a component of a trial that we should take into consideration when we're asking patients ahead of time, hey, you live very rurally. Okay, so we'll do this portion of the trial from some type of decentralized way. And interestingly enough, today, a woman from Lilly, she said, I don't even refer to them as DCTs. I call them community-based research, which I thought was interesting. So I don't know if CBR is our new acronym.
Because we need another one of those.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that was yesterday. This morning, I'll just give you two big highlights. The first keynote was from Victoria Gray. She's the first CRISPR gene therapy recipient for sickle cell disease. Super powerful speaker. I mean, she was fantastic. Very emotional. Great way to set the stage. Then a bunch of other folks. And then I looked, I was right up front and I could see this side door open, and in walks Scott Gottlieb into this backstage. And so Scott Gottlieb, former FDA commissioner, he got up there. A few things that he said were interesting. First of all, he did not talk about vaccines, which we all thought he was going to. And he even joked about that at the very end. He did say, by the end of the year, you'll probably see a third of the FDA leaving their jobs. Not a great.
Is that comparatively who's already left? Or
it is. It is. Yeah, because he made a point of that. Yeah. He said basically, he feels like we're taking a step back. Kind of slowing policy right now. A step back to years ago, about 10 years ago, how the FDA was. He commented on the current commissioners, how he takes meetings with pharma companies. And Scott said, I never did that. I met with maybe industry associations, but I never met with. So take that for what you will. He did not seem thrilled with it.
I can't imagine why.
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, even though he didn't say a lot of things that people thought he was going to come out and incite the crowd and say some really controversial things. I mean, he's in the middle of writing, I think, an op-ed for the Washington Post or one of those big papers right now, and so he was giving a little bit of insight into those. But I knew that he didn't want to give everything away. But still, packed room, as you can imagine. And then I don't want to overstay my welcome here. The last thing I'll say is there were some vendors focused sessions in the afternoon. They're only about 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes. The boys at Proof Pilot, I got to give them kudos. I mean,
what did they do this time?
They're not an advertiser. They had the dinosaur downstairs, walking around. They did a mock bachelorette, with Give Me the Rose. And we had to do this in like 10 minutes. And again, I was sitting at the front of the room before it even started. Like right before it started, I looked over and I saw Joe Dustin, of course, taking a picture of the crowd with himself. And I was like, what's behind me? And there was a shitload of people. I mean, the room was jam packed. So it was very interesting, how they did it. And it was, hey, if you're a sponsor, they had 4 sponsors on stage. And then one site was up there and she was the one that had to give the rose. And not surprisingly, she didn't choose one of them. She had 4 roses and she gave them all. I want you all to be my sponsor. So, kind of weak. But
happy ending,
Yeah, just like every romance.
Hey, you gotta remember who pays. You gotta remember who pays your bills. Okay, so they all get a rose.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, so. Happily ever after. Every romance, right?
Yeah, I wasn't going to say anything, Denali. Yeah, sure. That's how it is.
No, they Proof Pilot guys know how to put on a good show.
Yeah, shout out to Joe Kim. Yeah.
And they just acquired Locavant.
That was big.
Yeah. Did they talk about that at all or no?
No, I really expected, because their CEO, Chris, was sort of the MC of that 10 to 12 minute, thing. And they never said one thing about it. And I don't know if that's good or they just didn't have time.
Or it's just too new and they didn't. Yeah, that could be. We had Chris on. Was it the spring?
Yeah. And I've had Rohit on. I like Chris. I like Rohit. But we had Rohit on not that long ago.
Yeah,
he was in the AI conversation that we had. Yeah. So I'd be really curious to see what they're able to do together. I'm not smart enough to know what that would be, but I like both groups. Yeah. So hopefully they do something neato.
Well, I'll put together a summary of my thoughts and post it on Clinical Leader probably in the next few days.
Cool.
Thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate it as usual.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome to stay, and we'll bring Katie up from the crowd here too. Hey, Katie, how's it going?
Good. How's it going?
Good.
Well, rocking and rolling. Who are you? And what do you do?
Who am I? My name is Katlyn Delaney. I'm here in Raleigh, North Carolina. I just branching off of your mention of Parexel. Just saw their new building go up here. The big, shiny, fancy sign down here in downtown Raleigh. Looks nice. I work for Wise Health. Our primary focus actually is in the UK and Ireland right now, with plans to come to the US in the near future. So happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
What does Wise Health do?
Yeah, so I'm going to bring back some of your data points we were just talking about with EDCs and data capture. So we do
be AHR to EDC.
No, so one of the problems that we are seeing here in Ireland and the UK is a lot of the records for patients are actually still paper. Like, we're not seeing a lot of the electronic health records. We'll find them in the private practices, but if you have patients that have paper notes, it's going to take a lot of time to get the notes. You're looking at maybe 30 days. If they want to hear by the 30 days, you're going to pay some sort of amount of money to get it. And then you're looking through and you're reading it. And also, as we mentioned here in the US, like, cursive doesn't really get taught anymore. So imagine if you aren't even being taught to read cursive and you're going to search these notes, find all the key matching points. So what we are doing is not only connecting with those EHRs, your favorite process, but we are looking for those paper documentation and being able to implement to extract the information digitally and use another key buzzword here, AI, to be able to match that to protocols. So another topic that I briefly was listening to while backstage is you mentioned manual entry. So, like, obviously, if you don't have your medical records, maybe you're taking medication, but you don't know what it's for. I mean, that's going to create confusion for patients. So we're also working on the educational piece behind it as well, to say, you may take metformin, but did you know that's for X, Y, and Z? So that's primarily what I am doing. I'm a product owner, and when my title says clinical trials solutions, like, I really am trying to find solutions. So this is not a hodgepodge, just find the right puzzle piece to make it work. We really are trying to make sure we're finding the right solutions for, if it's a site, a CRO, a sponsor, we want to hear from you. We want to be able to actually make it work, make it happen. Obviously within the realm of feasibility, if it's possible to do it in legality, but yeah, that's what we do.
Nice.
I feel like I'm going to do a caveat here, because I feel like I was lied to my entire childhood, where you're going to need to learn cursive and you're not going to have a calculator in your pocket. Oh. And it's like, guess what I have? And like, I don't know the last time I used cursive. I write in all caps. So I feel like I was lied to.
Oh, that's just you write like a child. You know, plenty of people still write in
What do you mean?
cursive. And I was going to ask, like, is there still
Ouch.
pockets? Are there still pockets of like paper charts in the US? I know, like, we worked with a doctor. She recently retired, but she got an EHR. But what she would do is like handwrite notes in cursive and then just scan them into the EHR, and that was like the record. And I was like, okay, I can't search for anything.
Yeah, and that's
Because
what we're dealing with too. But by taking it, digitizing it, and being able to actually make it searchable, kind of killing one bird with two stones, two birds with one stone. Sorry.
right.
So is that using like
Yeah,
OCR technology to like
Mhm.
review those PDFs and scan them in and then like
Yeah,
make it into...
and ultimately, like if you're running a trial, we'll say COPD, we present you with a list of patients that have consented to give their data to you as a site to review and not only see that they've matched to the indication, but giving them an eligibility score 0 to 100, and then also highlighting to you, we've gotten all of this information from X, Y, and Z documents. This is manually inputted. This is from this physician on this date, highlighting where the holes are so we can also kind of close the loop.
Nice. I like that. You're talking about Parexel. This is, again, a little out of left field, but I guess still related. Did I see Parexel had a partnership now with Paradigm? Did you guys see that?
Yeah.
Does anyone know what Paradigm actually does?
No.
You know what? They spoke at something I was at recently. I want to say AI.
Consult your notes. I like that you have a book of notes there.
It's actually the book. It's actually the DPharm book.
Oh, okay, I gotcha.
It had to be yesterday, but I know that I encountered them somewhere. I could be
Well,
totally wrong. They could be super pissed at me right now. So
no, I've seen a lot of like different press releases from them, but it's never been extremely clear to me what they do. Another one of those companies and maybe they are just figuring it out. But anyways, I see they announced like some kind of partnership with Parexel, so I thought that was interesting. If anybody, I would love to have Paradigm people come on the show sometime. I know that I was maybe rude to them in the comments section of one of their posts one time, but it was mostly just because I'm just curious what they do.
Well, I think there's a lot of companies that are kind of out there like that, where it's like people try to do a lot of different things, but it kind of gets confusing because then you don't know what they're actually focused on. But I think is that funding based, right? So like you need to acquire companies to like get additional revenue streams to showcase that your top line is increasing, so you just start acquiring companies and figuring out how you work together after.
Start doing so. I think it's gotten better throughout the years. It was bad during COVID where I could feel like I couldn't tell who did anything. And now we've seen a lot of pivot too, and Dan's probably seen that. Like, I feel like a lot of those companies have sort of niched down into a thing versus trying to do everything.
Yeah.
Well, there were, Science 37 is a good example. We had Tyler on, and they were like,
Science 38 is very focused. I don't know what you're talking about.
Extremely focused. How dare you? But yeah, they kind of tried to do it all. I mean, there were companies like maybe even Medable, who now seems to be carving out a niche in like sort of the more of like the e-pro space, from what I can tell from some of their posts, maybe. So it's been an interesting shift, and maybe I don't know if they're being forced to do that now or they're just figured out what it is they actually are good at. But
the About Us on Paradigm Health's page says they are rebuilding the clinical research ecosystem by creating a platform that enables equitable access to trials for all patients. And it goes on. It keeps going. It's a long sentence, but it doesn't really say much. I'm not sure what they do.
That's all. Like, I don't know what that could mean, possibly.
Fucking hate that type of PR announcement. I'm going to be really, I can't.
That's their About Us on their page. Yeah.
Where it's like people release so many words and it says so little.
So little. It's like clinicaltrials.gov. I saw your posts yesterday about, that's kind of what you think of to go look for a trial, and then you have all the same contact for the same sites and nobody responds.
There's nothing. Yeah, there's nothing there of any value, really.
So much content, no value.
Yeah.
Yeah, these guys do have an AI-driven platform for patient recruitment. Again, I am going to get massacred by Paradigm Health, I'm sure. So I apologize.
Just blame Brad.
Why am I even speaking right now?
All press is good. All press is good press. Paradigm. All right, you're getting talked to.
Coming from my boss now. Shut your mouth. Yeah.
That's okay. I mean, just reading what's on their website, it seems pretty innocuous. But yeah, I mean, that was something I mean, I did for a while. I'd go to these websites and try to be like, okay, let's see if I can figure out what they do. And I work in this field. I feel like I should be able to like discern what you're saying. And when I can't, that feels kind of, I don't know, it feels like a red flag. Maybe not always, but.
Well, I mean, it's like going to conferences and you walk through the exhibit hall and you see all of these different vendors and you're like, I don't know what half of you do.
Dude, Scope like blew my mind when
That was the
I
one
was
that was
like,
particularly good.
how are you and who are you and what are you doing?
Whatever they're
Yeah.
doing is revolutionary. They all say that.
100%.
And they're using AI.
And they're using AI to make it revolutionary.
I mean, you can't not at this point to some degree, but yeah, I mean, look, I guess, whatever, competition. I don't know if that's the right word. It's good that we got people with different, ostensibly different ideas, all trying to do things. And eventually something good is going to come out of that. But it feels very overwhelming, especially as a site. Like, and we feel it, like all these different vendors for every study, new vendors who come into play, vendors who go away, vendors who are switched in the middle of a trial because of God knows what reason, dude, we have straight up like EMR migration, or not EMR, EDC migrations in the middle of a trial. That is painful when you've got 45 patients worth of data in an EDC. They migrated over, you open it the next day, and this is all like literal, there's 600 queries that have now populated because the migration didn't quite get it right. They're telling the coordinator to start fixing them. Like, no, we're not. No, we're not. You're gonna pay more money.
I was gonna say, like, how does that work? From like, because that probably wasn't in the budget.
No. They eventually, I think, actually did map it and fix it. But okay. The CRA in the meantime is telling my coordinator to start fixing queries, and I was like, don't do that. Madness.
No.
Madness.
As a site, do you get much say in what vendors you do and don't want to work with, or do you get to request any? You don't get to have that conversation.
No, yeah, we can use our own e-source. Like, they'll let you collect source however you want, which is, seems like the least they can do. That's
by
nice.
Definition, isn't that like?
Yeah, they can't really. Yeah, they can't really like make you do anything. Also, they're not going to provide it anyway. Nobody provides source anymore. Maybe some device studies will provide some paper source, but then you've got to convert it to whatever you're using anyway. I saw for a period, and maybe this is something that is getting better, is more, at least I've had people reach out informally from sponsors to be like, hey, what do you think about this vendor or that vendor? And being able to have maybe some influence. I don't know how official it is, but at least maybe they're vetting them on the side with like sites who've worked with them. But it's a mixed bag. Like, either by the time they show up to do a site selection, they have their vendors selected, or they're pretty much through the process. So you really don't get any say. I've gotten now to where I'm like, one of the first questions, I'm like, who are your vendors? Who are you working with? Show me the list. It's somewhere towards the back of the slide deck usually.
So my question on that though is that, like, I know how sometimes this works. Like, the same solution or same product can look wildly different, be configured wildly different with different sponsors that you have. So how do you reconcile, like, yeah, I like vendor A when they're at Pfizer, but vendor A at Merck doesn't work, but vendor B at Merck is really good, but when vendor B is at Pfizer, it's shit. So like, how do you manage the variation in that? You don't.
You just do the best you can. That's something that took me a while to understand, like probably embarrassingly long, that like a vendor can be good or bad depending on what the sponsor's requirements are for that vendor or what they're making them do. So like, I've seen it, I've seen an EDC that I'm like, oh, this is great. This EDC is put together perfectly. It actually like flows with the way you'd want it to flow. And then you get the same EDC again. You're like, wait, this is crap. This doesn't even make sense. I got to like go over here to do this. And you realize it's not really the vendor. The vendor is just probably going to do what, hey, give us your money. We'll do whatever you want us to do, even if it makes our product look like garbage.
Well, that's an issue though from the product side. And I don't know, Katie, if you've ever experienced this or how much you guys get into customization and such, but like, you kind of put your reputation out on the line, where it's like, it's the same thing with like people who franchise restaurants, right? Like, you have a franchise to protect your brand reputation, but then you limit the flexibility versus other sort of like exclusivity agreements and that type of thing. Like, you're risking what your reputation is, because you could be essentially like, yeah, to Brad, to your point, like, you got this EDC and it was done shit. So now they think that as a vendor you're shit, when in actuality it wasn't. Do you deal with those issues at all, Katie, at all?
Definitely bad PR for sure. But I mean, if you think about it, so from Wise, it's not like we'll only work with sponsor, we'll only work with CRO. Like, we want to work with you as a site as well. We want to hear exactly what you need, because why would I purchase another piece of software or equipment if it's not actually addressing my problems? Like, it seems more of a hassle than something actually to help you down the line. So I think there is a lot of miscommunication about the direction and who it's coming from, who's the one paying for the service. But ultimately, the sites are the individuals getting those patients in the door, enrolled into trials, finding out what information is missing to actually make sure they're a good fit. So I think it's super important for me and for Wise, and I think for other vendors that are doing the equivalent, to hear directly from you, like, what do you want? Like, you don't need to give me a huge paragraph of trying to interpret, what does this say? Like, just tell me what you want. Let's have a discussion. I think that open table discussion is really what's hindering the market at the moment. I don't know, Pfizer, Merck, somebody come knock on your door and say, you're going to use this vendor because we have it already approved. If you don't have the way to say, I don't want to use it because X, Y, and Z, but I have better luck when it's coming from this vendor, the lack of those conversations, maybe it's just nobody has the time to have it, is really creating a barrier. It's not ultimately the patient that's going to have the barrier. Sometimes it's the technology that's kind of bearing everything. And we want to be able to, I want to solve it. Like, I don't want to just say, oh, okay, I don't have time for this, and move on to the next thing. We really want to make it happen for you.
Yeah. And I will say, and some of this is through, like, my involvement with SOS, but we're seeing more vendors who do want to go straight to sites and be like, what's up? Tell me what you like. Tell me what you want. Tell me what works. Tell me what doesn't work. And I think that's great. It's hard for sites sometimes to, like, have that time, to set aside to do that. Sites are, oftentimes really busy, or sometimes I feel like the right people at sites aren't being engaged. Like, even me, like, I'm now a couple of years away from, like, out of, like, really doing a lot of the hands-on coordinating. I'm getting more and more disconnected myself. So, like, you want your coordinators who are like, and vendors have come out on site, and I've, like, sat them down with my coordinators and been like, talk to them, go nuts. They'll show you what it's like using your platform. So I love that that's happening more.
And we want to have those sessions too. Like, maybe I want to look over your shoulder and see how you're actually using it. I want to see where you're getting blocked. And if I think that this is a wonderful, magical feature, but everybody on this side of the world hates it, then we need to change it. There is a one size fit all for certain scenarios, but there needs to be some sort of customization, almost like, remember back in the day, MySpace, that makes people happy to use it. Like, make it theirs. They know where everything is. They can get the data that they need.
I mean, it's not the worst analogy, because it's the same thing, but you get your own. I mean, I got crazy with my HTML coding on my MySpace page, have a lot of fun with it.
We need to dig that up.
I was gonna say, I feel like I need to go on a mission for this, Dan.
Definitely do not do that. Something you touched on, Dan, that I think I've been hearing or noticing a lot, I noticed it at Viva Summit, was the sort of, like, urge or want for sites to have direct relationships with sponsors, and how, like, that seems weirdly uncommon, especially, like, when you're in the midst of a study and, like, your contact is your CRA through the CRO. I guess I'm curious. And, like, what I found interesting, like, at Viva, there were no CROs. Like, no one was there from the CRO perspective.
Right.
And, whatever. I don't think, like, that's necessarily going to cut CROs out of the business that they do. But I feel like that is a huge hindrance, is, like, this game of telephone we play. And I'm curious, like, were there specifics from sites, or was it, do sponsors want to go straight to sites, or do sites want to go straight to sponsors, or both?
Yeah, I mean, in the one conversation, there was a lot of talk about setting expectations for sites when you're the sponsor, and not only, hey, listen, this trial is going to suck during this section, or it's going to be easier in this section, but also, and if you have a problem, if you need to escalate, they talked a lot about the escalation person or process. And, I feel like even going back to SOS 2 years ago, and maybe because it was such a site-centric conference, but this idea of empowering sites is almost the same as, the rise of empowerment of sites is almost the same as the rise of site networks, right? There's been a lot of site discussions, and for sure, not just in the partnerships for sites where you would expect it, but in the Craco, and even this morning, So yeah, I think that, everybody talks about, make sure that you include all the stakeholders when you're designing a trial, and that includes patients and the sites. I'm sure a lot of that was, just marketing rhetoric, for a number of years, as I'm sure you can attest, but it feels
surely not
way more realistic now, and at least, you just gave some examples, so I'm not on the front lines like you are.
What's the, so I know there was like the site partnership conference yesterday. What's the site presence at DPharm? Because I know historically that's been pretty low.
That's a great question. I don't know. I haven't delved into that. There were people there yesterday. There were a number of people there that were only there for yesterday because DPharm costs more, I think, And like I said, I talked to a lot of people that were from sites, from remote sites. Like I sat with a woman from a site in Montana that has, nothing around, to someone in Arizona that works with the reservation that's nearby, and those folks, I think, were there specifically for those types of discussions, and they all told me, it's nice that we're around similar folks. It's the same thing we hear at SOS, right?
Got it.
So I don't know today, what the makeup is.
So, and I think this is bringing up something that I think mentioned a couple weeks ago or something, but the concept that like partnering with sites, but like, okay, but what is a site? Because site needs are so different. Like Brad's needs versus Denise at Duke's needs are very different. Like we had a conversation at Summit, the three of us talking, and it was like the needs were just significantly different across site types. So it's like, yes, we need to partner with sites. Yes, we need to listen to sites, get their feedback, but like you're going to have wildly different feedback from the different market segmentations. And so I think that's a fascinating thing. Like, yes, it's great that we're bringing sites to the table and having those conversations. We need to bring the right people from the sites, but we also need to bring all of the sites to the conversation too, not just a specific segment that has a louder voice.
This sort of site there's a lot of site archetypes. I mean, and mixes in between,
Yeah, that site taxonomy, they called it, basically defining every type of site there is, was really interesting. Like I said, it came out about a year and a half ago, but when they put it up on that big screen, I was like, oh shit, yeah, that's right. There's this type, there's this type. And then even within the site networks, there were 3 different types. Are they owned by a PE firm? Are they independently owned? Or, and Denali, I'm working with the folks at AMRC for the deep dive, or that dive team at Innovation Network Gathering. And that's what we're going to be talking a lot about, is strategic versus tactical things within site networks, and how it affects decision making and things like that.
I'm really excited for that conference. I mean that dive team too, but also that conference in general. I think that's going to be a fun time.
Yeah, it's exciting stuff. All right, well, we did 40 minutes. You guys got anything you want to hit on? Sorry, there's a
airplane
helicopter. It's a helicopter land. So I'm like adjacent to the hospital, so it's a med flight, coming in. So
I was like, are you like Black Hawk Down over there? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, it's Oklahoma's interesting place. But anything you guys want to close out with or hit up before we finish up here?
Katie, it's up to you. Go ahead.
My last question, I guess, for everybody is to bring up AI one more time and see kind of what your experience is at the site perspective. And also, I mean, if there's anything additional that you've heard in the conference at DPharm, that would be interesting for me to hear, as I think the word AI can be interpreted so many different ways: fearful, exciting, nerve-wracking. What's your take on it?
I mean, I'll say at the site level, and I'm oftentimes kind of silly when it comes to AI. I'm not really for or against it. I mean, if it works, it works, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. And I'm just, along for the ride either way. I don't know that we've seen a lot of super compelling use cases at the site level, at least for sites like mine. Now, there are the patient matching, things, which are nice, and they do work to some degree. It's nice to start with a list of 40 patients that look like they really qualify versus manually combing through 2,500 patients from a ICD-10 dump. So that's really nice and useful. We've started to get a little more into experimenting with some of the like outreach aspects that AI offer. I think that's something though I'm a little bit uncertain about.
What perspective, like how is that being used?
So like especially potentially pre-qualifying patients who are reaching out from advertising, like how can we engage with them immediately to ask them some pre-screening questions and get them on our calendar? Because if I want to run 10 ads for trials, I mean, that requires a lot of manpower to be on the phones, somebody answering, people are filling the things out at 2 a.m. Like how can we engage quicker, better, just more efficiently? So we're just now kind of getting into, potentially dealing with some of that. And again, I think that's a little bit, I don't know, I have a little bit of misgivings about it, but we'll see. It's worth giving a shot and seeing. So and again, from my perspective, like we have very little touch points, like directly with, AI, however you want to.
I thought you had a lot of agents at your site.
Oh, don't say the word agents. Drink. You have to take a drink if you say the word agents.
Okay.
I don't know why, but I feel like in the last 2 weeks, AI agents has become like the thing I've heard a bajillion times, and still can't tell you exactly what that means.
Well, it's interesting that the thought process about like sites in general using AI, because I think a lot of times like sites aren't going to directly use AI. They're going to use a vendor who uses AI. Right? It's like it doesn't matter if a team of people over in India is doing your work or AI is doing the work. Like the site itself is more consuming the product of this. And so it's like a lot of times folks, I think especially when I talk to folks who are very into building AI and in that space, they come at it from a very different perspective without understanding like sites aren't going to use AI themselves. They're going to use a vendor that's going to do AI, which is it's just sort of like Brad doesn't have a team of besides its agents, but Brad doesn't have a team of like data scientists and folks building AI specifically for him. That's not even the large academic centers are not going to do that, right? Like it's just they're going to get vendors who use it, but other than that, I don't know. It's an interesting. People like, how do sites use AI? It's like they don't. They use the output of AI.
Yeah.
Sure. I think I told you the story before about the he is a true Craco model, and he developed his own AI, and I put that in quotes because it was essentially a patient matching system, and I mean, every hand went up, hey, can we buy that? Can we use that? Because it's been super successful for him. But to your point, Denali, like he obviously hired someone to come up with that, and whether or not you call that AI or just an algorithm, it doesn't really matter. The only thing I'll say on AI is Scott Gottlieb did say that many companies are using AI for the business processes, and he means about sites. They use AI for the business processes, but not for embedding it into discovery and development, which I don't know if that's good or bad. It seems like the business processes are low-hanging fruit, but
safer way, less risky.
Yeah. And as you said, like I can walk downstairs right now and run into 27 different AI vendors who will tell me that, I'm sure that they have, great products and everything, and I'm all for it. I don't understand it all, but I don't know, site focused.
That's also my pet peeve too. And people are like, oh yeah, we use AI to do it. It's like, no, you're not building AI. You're using someone else's open source AI model to do your thing. Like you didn't build AI. You built a prompt for someone else's AI. You did not build AI.
But again, I don't really care. I mean, if it works, it works.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, it's your point about EHR to EDC. You don't really care, as long as it works. So
yeah, I mean, if it works for other people and doesn't work for me, that's also perfectly fine. It's great. So whatever helps everybody or the most people possible, that's what we're going for here. All right, well, very cool. Dan, Katie, thank you guys for coming on, and we'll have a sticky notes later this week, Denali.
Yes. On Thursday at the same
Beautiful.
time. We'll have a sticky notes. Yeah.
Well done. All right. Well, thanks you guys for watching. Again, Dan, Katie, thanks for coming on. See you guys next time. Thanks for listening to Note to File. We're committed to continuing to bring you independent and unfiltered coverage of the clinical trial industry.
We want to talk about what you want to hear. So if you have something on your mind, hit us up at notetofilepodcast.com.